Okay. So we are back. We are back in Exodus. Okay. So we're getting closer to the Passover, right? It's awesome, man. So we're gonna be in, and we talked about we're gonna be in Exodus, and this is gonna be over here in Exodus 9. And we're in Exodus 9, and we're going to start at kind of 8. But what we're talking about is we're talking about the 6th plague, which was the plague of boils. So as kind of a quick recap, what do we know about this plague right here? You took the ashes from the furnace. What did the ashes from the furnace represent? What did the ashes represent that we had said? Suffering. The what? Hardship. The toil and the hardship, the suffering, the tears, the anguish, the whatever, right, of the Israel children as they were slaves over there. And what we said is the Lord said, look, reach in there, grab a couple handfuls of that and throw that up in the air, and I'm gonna do something with it, right? So that was really what we talked about last week, was the vengeance of the Lord, right? We don't need to deal with the hardships that come into our life and the troubles that come into our life and the trials, and we don't need to avenge ourselves. Right. I want to say that again, that we don't need to avenge ourselves. Correct? When we avenge ourselves, what happens? We get in trouble. We make a mess. We do that. The Lord is faithful, right? The Lord knows how things need to be done, right? And it says, vengeance is mine. In other words, I want you to, if somebody's hungry, then feed them. If they're thirsty, then give them something to drink. And if they need something, then you be overly abundant to them, right? And whatever is within you, you make peaceable. You make peace with them, right? That's what we do. So that's what we talked about last week. I hope that we can do that, because that's a hindrance in people's lives. That I gotta get vengeance on this. You're gonna have payback on this. I'm not gonna forget this. I'm trying to teach Sharon on that, right? Look, we already talked about this. I told her that last week, man. Actually last night. I said, look, man, we've already talked about this, man. It's in the past, man. You give that to the Lord and let him deal with me. I'd rather have her deal with me than the Lord, really. He does deal with me on that stuff. So moving forward on that, what did we say that we were going to talk about this week? The next section in this, the plague of the boils. What's the next section? Is he throws up those ashes, and we're over here in Exodus 9, and this is just going to be 8 through, I guess, 12. And I'm going to read it, and then we're going to talk about the second part. I'm going to read it. So, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, take for yourselves handfuls of ashes from a furnace, and let Moses scatter it towards the heavens in the sight of Pharaoh, right? You're taking your suffering, your anguish, your pain, your tears, throwing those up to the Lord, letting him take that. And it says, as you scatter it in the air and you bring it up, it will become fine dust in all the land of Egypt, and it will cause boils that break out in sores on man and beast throughout all the land of Egypt. And they took these ashes from the furnace, stood before Pharaoh, scattered them towards the heaven, and they caused boils that broke out in sores on man and beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils were on the magicians and on all the Egyptians. So what did we say we were going to do this week? What was the theme of this week? See what gifts we have to multiply. That's right. What is it that we have little of that God can multiply? Faith is one of them, right? And we went over a couple. We're gonna talk about those, because I don't know anybody. Maybe in here people have the idea that they have plenty to offer God. Right? I have. You're lucky, God, that you have me to do what you need done. Because if you didn't have me, then you couldn't get it done, right? Some people have that attitude. Right? They think that it's a privilege for God to have them in their study, or for God to have them in church. And it's like, no, man. But most of us, we're on the other extreme, right? And we're like, Lord, I don't have enough faith. I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough power. I don't have enough to do anything with you. And what is the devil doing? The devil's sitting right here on my shoulder, and he's saying, you know what, Chad? You don't have enough money. You don't have enough power. You don't have enough faith. So what you need to do is you need to sit down, shut your mouth, and stay in the corner and just do what you're doing, right? And why are we in the situation that we're in, as far as with just our nation? Why are we in that? In the culture, does it appear that we are winning? No. And the Lord says that, right? I mean, the Lord has already told us that, look, this is a downward spiral, man, until I come back. But we are not taking a stand.
One time you said it's a fear to stand up.
A fear to stand up. Yeah, I mean, we just don't. So I want to talk about God can take our little bit. And I'm telling you, God can take our little bit and he can do wondrous things with it. And you can see it as you look at, just things that have been done. So let's talk about that. The first one is what Marcus said, and that's faith, right? He can turn little into much. And we're going to talk about over in Matthew 17. Let's go over to Matthew 17. And over there in Matthew 17, this is a story that we've all heard. We're just going to kind of talk about it a little bit. Matthew 17, verse 14. Okay. And it says, and when they had come to the multitude, okay, what had been going, just before this, you have Jesus is transfigured on the mount, Peter, James, John. The Lord's been with them. He's been literally with them, teaching them, showing them, discipling them, doing all this stuff, right? And it said, when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him, kneeling down to him, saying, Lord, he's coming to the Lord. And he's saying, Lord, have mercy on me, my son. He's epileptic and suffers severely. For he often falls into the fire and I'm going to read all this and we're going to talk about it, and often into the water. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Then Jesus answered, said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, why could we not cast it out? Why could we not take care of the situation? And Jesus said, because of your unbelief. For assuredly, as I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to here, or here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. Okay. So what do we see first off? This is a lack of faith on the disciples, right? That they don't have enough faith to get the job done. So the first thing that I think is pretty interesting here, this man, you got these disciples that are trying to cure this boy, right? And they're like, we've been walking with Jesus. We know what's going on. He says, okay, then here's my boy, and I want you to heal my boy. And all of them do whatever they're going to do. And, the boy is not healed. Right. And this man's like calling him out in front of Jesus, like, yeah, I don't know what kind of people you're leading right here. I don't know what you're doing, but it's not working, man. And tell me this, as we go through our life and we do the things that we're doing and we follow God and do people expect for us to be able to do something for the Lord? Do they expect for us to do something for the Lord? And how do we do in that? How do we do in that as far as when somebody, they look at our life, right? They see what we're doing and they see that, look, man, you're just going to church and you're going to these groups but you really have no real faith that's really doing anything, right? And are people going to call us out on that? Yeah. And do we always have to have all the faith in the world? No, but how much faith do we have to have? We've got to have some faith, right? And we can't just. Did everybody hear that story?
Not everybody.
Yeah, I stole a mustard seed, used it as an example in our Sunday school class, and then figured out I'd stolen it and had to confess to the whole class. I didn't really think I stole it. I borrowed it from the pack, but I did open the pack up and dump it in my hand, put the pack back on the shelf. And then as I come to the class and I show them this mother, you need to have faith the size of this, which is 1 to 2 millimeters. I mean, this thing's a little dinky thing. Sharon's like, how'd you get that much? Well, I took it from what? Did you buy it? No, I stole it. And I said, so I had to go back and repent and go back and tell them I stole it from the store and pay for it. And I said, that shows about how much faith you have. You couldn't even pay for the pack of mustard seed. Sure I did. Yeah, that's the way that goes. So anyway, but as far as how much faith do we need to have to do something for Christ, right? This is telling us right here that, look, it's because of your unbelief. And Jesus is saying to him, and I wanted to read over here in 1 Corinthians, 3, because as we are walking with the Lord, as we are walking with Christ and as like these disciples, are they just walking with them or are they learning anything? And that's the question that I have for us. Are we going to the things that we're going and just going to say that I'm taking up a seat and say that I'm just doing this and I'm being faithful and I'm going to church and but I'm getting nothing out of that thing. And it's not changing my family. It's not changing the people around me. It's not changing my life. Right. And I'm just walking and doing the same thing that I'm always doing, but I'm in church and I'm doing this and I'm checking a box. You know, it's time for us. It's time for me to step up and not just go to the things that I'm going to, right? But to have an intentional purpose for why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, so that I can learn about what the Lord has for me, so that I can change people's lives, so I can change my life, my family's life, the church's life, the whole culture, right? I mean, don't we need to do that? I'm sick of us just coming in and being consumer Christians, right? And you guys are doing a great job, but consumer Christians that I'm just going in, getting fed, and doing nothing with it. Right. And I can even be out there. Okay. So the step is now I'm coming to a Bible study class, right? Which is great. So you come from your Bible study. Now I'm ushering or I'm giving out or I'm doing whatever. So that's great too. But are you transferring that into your family? Right. Our fathers stepping up as men and leading their families. Are we going out in our community and doing whatever? And if that's too hot, cold, you can turn it on. Somebody told me the other day that it was frozen. So if it's too chilly, turn it down. But are we doing those things? And what I want to read over here is as we get over to, it's 1 Corinthians 3. I'm going to read 1 through 4. And I want you to think about this in your life, is because I can spend time with the Lord, just kind of spend time, but never really get anything out of it. Right? I can read my Bible and never get anything out of it because I'm not doing it for an intentional purpose of changing my life and people's lives. Correct? And what does it say? Paul over here in 1 Corinthians 3:1 says, and I, brethren, could not speak to you as spiritual people, but to carnal, as to babes in Christ. I fed you with milk and not with solid food. For until now you were not able to receive it, and even now you are still not able to receive it. For you are still carnal. For where there are envy, strife, divisions among you, are you not carnal and behaving like mere men? And it says, for when one says, I am of Paul, and another, I'm of Apollos, are you not carnal? And he's talking about that they're saying, well, I'm a disciple of Paul, and I'm a disciple of Apollos. And he said, it's not about who you're a disciple of, it's about the Lord, right? And how is he changing your life? And, we got to get out of this thing on that, well, I'm doing this for this person, I'm doing it for this person, or whatever you're doing, right? Are you able to start going from the milk, which is just the basics, right? We all should be reading and praying and going to the meat where it's actually changing people's lives. And that's what he said to, look, you've got these guys that are walking with you, doing your stuff, and they still can't do anything because they've just been consumers, right? When did they change? When do the disciples change? When do they figure it out? After the death, right? And then they say, wait, there is something to this, man. And I'm going to devote my life to this and I'm going to change. And they changed the entire world. So when is it that we're going to figure out that there's more to it than me just reading my Bible? There's more to it than me just sitting here and saying I'm a Christian and going to class and I'm going to this, that I'm actually going to change my life and start to change somebody else's life. Right? I mean, I love that, man. And it says, oh, faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me. He cried out, and Jesus rebuked the demon. And the disciples came to him and said privately, why could we not cast it out? Right? Because they don't understand. They don't understand that. And sometimes we need someone to tell us, look, you're doing a good job, but it's time to step up and take the next step. Right? Start taking the meat and start growing your life and start being that, and I could say it for men, man. Start being the leader of your family. Start being the leader of your church. Start doing the things. If we do the things that we're supposed to do, right? What's going to happen to our wives? What happens to our wives when men step up and do what they're supposed to do? They're honored. They feel protected. They are willing. Why, with my life in Sharon, man, I'm a knucklehead, right? Yeah. But I mean, honestly, but I love her. I protect her. She knows that and she will literally, whatever she trusts me to do, whatever needs to be done, because I'm stepping up to do that. Right. And I'm telling you, we get in these arguments on, well, my wife won't let me do this, or I can't do this, because you're not doing your part. You're not stepping up, so she doesn't feel secure to be able to step up, or let you step up because you're falling out, right? Step up and do what you do. And that's what he's saying right here. They're saying, why couldn't we do this? And he says, it's because of your unbelief. And I've been praying, specifically the last couple of weeks, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief, man, because I'm telling you, I believe you can do it, right? I do believe you can change the culture. I believe you can change what's going on in my life. But Lord, I just don't believe it enough to do something about it.
I think of that like you've got the belief in your head, but not in your, like, you're not feeling it in your heart.
Yeah.
So it's like you have head knowledge and you're waiting for your heart to catch up with what you know is the truth.
Yeah.
But you don't always feel like it feels like the truth because you're.
And because you're scared to death, that I'm scared I'm gonna fail.
Or sometimes I think there's so many of us that need stuff. What if my prayer is too little?
Yeah, what if my prayer is too little? Right. What if I don't have enough faith? And the Lord's saying, look, and he's saying, right here, he's saying, it's because of your unbelief. I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, which is a small little seed, right? And you say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. I'm going to believe it. But, we don't have enough faith to do anything. I mean, right? I don't know what to say about that. And it says that only this comes by what? Prayer and fasting. What do we know about fasting? What do we know about fasting?
Well, it helps us concentrate on, you may feel hungry, but what you're really hungry for is not food or drink. It's actually nourishment.
Right. And when I get hungry, then I'm saying, Lord, I'm giving this up. Whatever, it doesn't have to be food. It could be television. It could be, I gave up all social. I'm not good on social media anyway. So that wasn't a big gift. But I gave that up last Lent season, right? That I gave that up. And I said, I never did that. I'm not doing Instagram, working out good. I'd be like, that would be healthy for me. That would, but so what is it that we're doing, right? What is it that we are giving up and saying, look, I'm going to give this up to you, Lord, and I'm going to replace that with obedience to your word and obedience to prayer and obedience to giving and obedience to time and whatever it is in my life, right? That's what prayer and fasting is. And really saying, God, I'm going to hold on to this thing, man. You talk about the group that they're going to do with these women on these prodigal kids. I'm going to hold on to this thing until it happens, right? I'm going to change this. I'm going to hold on to this until this thing changes, right? And I don't care if it takes me, whatever it takes me, Lord, I am going to put a foot down and I'm going to change this thing in your power, and I'm going to believe it through you. Right. That's what he's saying right there. And he said, however, it doesn't come by that and nothing will be impossible for you. Okay. And you talk about, I just don't think we have the faith. And I think the devil tells us we don't have the faith and we just don't do it. Right. So that's the first one. So the second thing I want to talk about is what about our resources, right? So our faith is the belief that something can change. Even though I don't see it changing, I'm going to believe until it changes. And I'm going to pray and I'm going to fast about it. I'm going to get serious about this thing and I'm going to do it, right? That's the first step. And then what about the resources? Some people in here, I won't mention any names, man, have all kinds of resources, right? We have a class that we have rich people, poor people, broke people, strong people, pretty, ugly. I'm not looking at anybody. We've got that class, man. But do I have the resources that I need to get the job done?
Easy, everyone. Sharon Mary.
Yeah, sure. Do I have the resources? Do I feel like I have the resources to get things done? I don't know, man. What does the devil tell me? That you don't have enough. You don't have enough to get out there and do that. So don't even start it.
He discourages you.
Yeah, he discourages you and says that, yes.
He says nobody's going to care anyway if you do it. Nobody's going to notice. Nobody's going to even come along and help.
You're on your own on this thing, man. Nobody's going to do anything about it, right?
Even when you're on fire, he knocks you down.
Oh, and especially when you're on fire. I mean, you've got these darts, man, coming at you all over the place, man.
We
Hitting.
all have our own things we've been assigned to.
Yes.
Work together.
Right.
We'll get it done.
And I may not have money to give and to do, right? But I may have the resource of of encouraging you and sending out a text and sending out and lifting you up and coming beside you. Maybe I have the gift of writing a card. Maybe I have the gift of just being there for it. You know, who knows what your resources are. So let's talk about it. So John, we're going to go to verse 6. Okay, and this is, as we look at John 6, we've all heard this story, right? This is feeding of the 5,000. Now I want to tell you, this is a story that is in all 4 of the Gospels, right? So what does that mean if this is in all 4 of the Gospels? This is here for a reason, right? The Lord wants us to learn something about this. You know, it's said in kind of different ways, but it's in all 4 of the Gospels, and he wants us to, and this is talking about resources, okay? And there's a couple different things that we can go down. I try not to go down rabbit holes, I really do, but it just doesn't work all the time. We got to, all right, let's go for John 6, 1, I guess. Okay. After these things, Jesus went over to the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Then a great multitude followed him because they saw his signs, which he performed on those who were diseased. And Jesus went up to the mountain. There he sat with his disciples. Now the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was near. Jesus lifted up his eyes, seeing a great multitude coming toward him. He said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread that these may eat?" But he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered and said, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may even have a little. Then one of the disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There's a lad here who has 5 barley loaves, 2 small fish, but what are they among so many?" And Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." There was much grass. The men sat down, in number about 5,000. He took the loaves. When he had given thanks, he distributed them to the disciples, to those sitting down, and likewise the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were filled, he said, "Gather them up." They gathered them up, and they filled 12 baskets with them. So as we look at this first, what had the disciples and Jesus been doing? They've been teaching. What is the Passover? This is we'll get to it at some point, right? This is an annual. I mean, this is just what they do. You've got all kinds of people that come in for this Passover feast, the Passover time. It's just packed, right? Jesus and the disciples have been doing what? They've been serving, they've been healing, they've been doing all this stuff. And the thing that I see about this, that they went and they wanted to get away for a little bit, right? He went and sat. Does everybody need time to get away and sit?
Yeah.
Right. Everybody needs time to get up. He's trying to get away with the disciples and just sit and just take some time for himself and just look. And we've talked about it before that, look, we can't do everything, right? There's a time when you got to step back and say, reevaluate all the things that I have going on in my life. And I'm doing this and I'm doing this. And you trim those things down, you know, and you trim it down to figure out what exactly is the most effective thing that you can be doing. He's sitting down and they're just taking some time off. There's nothing wrong with taking some time off. There's nothing wrong with, just chilling out, man, because we are busy. But what I see is that as they're taking time off, the Passover, the feast was there, and they were there. He lifted up his eyes and he saw a great multitude that needed something, right? There is a need. So I can take my time off, correct? But I'm still looking for the need. The Lord will present the need to us when the need is needed to be filled by us, right? And when we see that need, a lot of us get out and they say, well, I'm gonna trim back on this, and I'm gonna trim back on this, and next thing you know, where are you? You're right out there in the world doing whatever, and you've all of a sudden, well, I haven't really been going to church, and I haven't really been reading my Bible, and I've been kind of taking time off on all that stuff, right? That's not what that means, right? This is a time to reflect. What is our goal in life? What is our goal in life? It's not to lift myself up. It's not for me to be more wealthy or me to be more prevalent or it's about what am I doing for the kingdom? So when I take that time off, I'm taking time to evaluate, what can I do for you, Lord? What can I do with my family? What can I do with my wife? What can I do with my church? Or what can I do? And then when I see the need, I am ready to step up and fill the need, right? We got a lot of needs, right? And we've got people that are just, exactly able to fill those needs, right? And we're sitting there saying, well, I just don't know. And I'm going to pray about that. Man, when the Lord's calling you to do something. So anyway, they're sitting there and here's the multitude. he sees it coming off and he says to the disciples, he doesn't back off and just, he's like, look, let's go through it. We see another need, man. It's time to get back to work. Right. Same thing in your family, right? You see a need in your family. It's time to get back to work. We don't step off of that, right? With your, whatever that is. Okay. And it says that he said to them, where shall we buy bread that these may eat? He's saying that to test them, right? And he said this to test him. He knew what he would do. Same thing that he does to me. How can this need be met, Chad? Right? He knows how that need can be met, but he's testing me to see where my faith is.
Yeah.
Are you going to step up and meet this need that's in your face? Right? And the devil's telling me that need's too big, man. You don't have the resources for this. You don't have the time for this. You don't have you just don't do it. And God's saying, look, man, how are we going to meet this need? Let's evaluate that, right? He said to test him. Philip answered, 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that everyone may have a little. So really, if you read the other gospels, what does it say in the other gospels? What do they say right there? Half a year's wages, okay. What do they say about feeding the people?
Send them off.
Send them, right? That's the here, right? Right. Look, man, we can't meet this need. We can't do this. So we're not even going to try it, man.
God doesn't listen to I can't.
You need to send them off into the world and you need to let them go get their own stuff, right? And God's saying, look, man, this is a need I put before you. This is a need that I need you to meet, right? I don't need you to go around it, try to avoid it, try to do what I need you to go through it. I need to figure out a way to meet it. And that's what he's saying to him. Is there anybody that has enough strength or courage or faith to say, you know what, God, that need that you have in my life, I know that God's speaking to people. I know that he's speaking to people saying there's a need that I have for you to do. And you've been trying to avoid that. You've been trying to get around. You've been trying to pray about it. Now it's time to put your feet to the ground and work on that thing. Right? That's what he's saying to us. Now is the time. Right? Now is the time. We are not promised tomorrow. Right? Now is the time to do what we're supposed to do. So he says to him, what are we going to do about it? And he says, well, everybody else is saying, send them off. We don't have enough. So there's no point in even trying. Right? I'm telling you that do we not do that, man? I don't have enough, man. I don't have the ability. I don't have it. So you know what, man? I'm not even going to try. That's convicting to me because I've done that a lot of times. That I'm not, Lord, and there's an opportunity that God's saying, I have this custom-made opportunity for you right here. And all you got to do is step up and take it. And I avoid it, go around and go and never get it.
Chad?
Yeah.
I don't know if I said this in this class or I just said it on our table, but Mickey and I got a great story. It goes with like you just said about any talent you have. So it doesn't matter. It's like when you're starting off the class and you might have had just a couple people show and you're like, well, how is this going to get to anybody? Only 2 or 3 people show at a time. Right. So you have those doubts. But our doubt was this. We mentioned that we started tithing when we didn't have the money to make ends meet. And the Lord blessed us, not just with making ends meet, but he's blessed us financially. All right. So with those finances one year, I felt so overwhelmed that I was like, what should I do, Lord? And he said, I'm just going to say it's not because of us, but just to make sure point. All right. He said, you're going to give away, once you give away a $100 bill to 12 different people for Christmas, and you're just going to find these people in need and give it to them. So the day I went to the bank and got the money out to do this, I got home and I got a letter from the IRS. It said I owed several $1,000s to the IRS. And immediately my heart sunk and I thought, honestly, for a split second, I thought, we're not going to be able to do this. And immediately though, my stubbornness said, and I was probably not using all the right words, but I'm like, yes. This God said, I'm going to do it anyway. So I did it, and it was the old. It's better to give than receive. Was awesome. It was the most awesome thing that I ever got to do. But once I was done, 2 things happened. All right, he immediately within like 2 or 3 days, I recognized that what they did was they messed up. They just my W-2 got detached. So all of my money I put to the IRS feds wasn't showing. So they said, no, you don't know anything. But the next thing was where God showed me, I'll take care of this, just like in this story right here. I'll take care of it. Do what I say, because immediately my work, the first time ever, I made a $1,200 bonus. For all of it.
Right.
Two parts is like, wow, that's amazing. But the next one was, I wanted to give the first time because I felt overwhelmed with what done for me. And then he did this again. So we keep doing that, Mickey and I. We just had a blast buying this stuff yesterday.
It's awesome.
And so if you've got that, whatever, it's not finance, but whatever it is, I guess I can only imagine what these disciples must have felt like. They didn't have enough, they went out and they came back with more, like, wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, think about it, is the feeling.
The guy won't shut up. Look at him.
It's not based on how you feel. I mean, feelings are great. It's good. Anybody does. But you have a knowledge of what God said to do. And you do it whether you feel like it or not, or whether you, just because you have the truth.
Yeah.
So you can go along that, and then,
I do it
maybe you'll feel good later.
because I
Oh,
believe
Maybe
the devil was
But you gotta step out.
Show up right away, whatever you do, something personal. Because and you don't see it right away. And it wants to discourage you.
So now I want you to think about, as you look at this story. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Markets that actually were just like dark. They were just like.
No, that's not
like
counting.
trash.
Okay.
So I was thinking this week about biology and why, ashes would not be able to produce bacteria in order to have boils. Okay, and one way to clean something is to heat it. It's one way of killing bacteria is to heat it. So
Right.
really, science would say you cannot do anything with these ashes. They literally are trash.
Right.
They literally are trash. Also, the Israelites saw those ashes every single day.
Right.
And they owned nothing. They owned no land. They owned no cattle. They owned nothing because they were slaves. They were literally slaves and they owned nothing. All they had was ash. But how in God's power, and you think about the faith it must have taken for them to even throw that ash into the air. Just like, I don't know what you can do with this.
What are you
but
gonna- right.
This is all I have. It's just like ashes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how we are. Our good deeds are as ashes, but if we give those to God,
Right. Good point.
even the little tiny bits that we think we're just throwing in the trash. I'm not suggesting anybody not be a hoarder. I'm just saying it's like,
What God can do with.
that little tiny bit with faith, give it to Him. And even if it doesn't make sense, God will do.
God makes sense
absolute
out of it.
miracles.
It's awesome. So,
Be careful not to be a Jonah too. When God tells us to do something, don't be a Jonah and don't try to flee from it, because there's gonna be consequences. And God will eventually do what He wants to do.
no, and exactly, and all these guys that's what they're doing. They're trying to flee and go around it, go through it, and they don't want to do it. And God's saying, look, man, this is what I need you to do. And it's not whether or not you can do it, is how are you gonna do it? So let's figure this thing out, and how are you gonna do it? And as you look at it, and this is something that resonates with me, that he looked around and there's a lad there, right? These guys have been following the whole time, right? And this little boy has his lunch, right? And he has his 5 loaves and his 2 fish and just enough for him, right? And so he had to be the one that they're going around, they're looking, and he says, look, I've got something that I can give, right? And you look at the faith of the younger people, right? You look at the faith of the younger people, that they don't see the boundaries, right? They don't see the boundaries like we see them. Like he said, hey man, I've got some food that I can feed the people with, right? And we're like, well, that isn't enough. I'm not even gonna try. He's like, well, I got this and I can, and what a blessing it was for him to be able to get that. And he's in all 4 of the gospels, that you had this much faith that you did this and you gave this. And because I look at myself and you can look at your life and am I going to give up my lunch to feed somebody else? Probably not, man. Yeah, I've been walking all day, man. I'm hungry. I'm not gonna give up on my, and that's the same way that we do it. Like, I'm not gonna give up what I feel like I need to help somebody else, because I need that first, man. And I wanna take care of myself first. And then I'll give what's left over. And God said, no, you give. And then then you take what's left
Chad, one
over.
of the things I love about the story, Karen has teaches on this. The first time I heard it, but not only the boy, but the mom, they packed the lunch.
Right, that's right.
Big.
It's awesome. So I'm gonna tell you another story right here, and we're not gonna get into it, but I'm just gonna, what about, you look over there, we don't have to go there, but 1 Kings 17, verse 8, and you have the oil and the flour. Right? What do we know about the oil and the flour? You have the prophet Elijah, who is coming, and he's saying to this lady, he's saying, hey, look, I need something to drink. And she's like, okay, I'll give you something to drink, right? And he said, and while you're at it, make me a cake of bread. Right? And this lady says, look, man, I've got these sticks that I'm getting ready to make a fire. I'm getting ready to make my last meal of this flour and oil so that we can go and die. That's all that I have, and I was going to make that for me and my son so that we could go and die, right? That's our last meal. And Elijah says, well, you give to me first, and then God is going to provide for you, right? And she had the faith. She said, well, okay. And that's childlike faith. Okay, I'll give this to you. And so she gives it to him first. Then she says, then you go in and make yourself a meal, and made yourself a meal. And he said, now your resources are not gonna dry up until I bring rain, until you can actually start harvesting again. And that's what happened. And it's like, look, if we would take ourselves out of the equation and say, God, you're calling me to do this. I need to serve your kingdom first. I need to do your stuff first. That's why it says with your tithes and your offerings, right? What does it say on that? It says, give to God first, your first fruits. Don't give him what's left over. He is not going to bless us when we are giving to him what is left over of my time, right? What's left over of my resources, whatever it is, man. God is saying, look, you've got to trust me first. And if you will start trusting me first, and I will start providing more than you can imagine, right? More than you can imagine. I'm telling you, anybody in here who's done it, that, man, I'm broke and I can't tithe and I don't have the money. Well, then your washing machine blows up, right? Then you blow a tire out in your car. Then you do, and it's like, God's going to get his just one way or another. So, but when I start giving and I say, Lord, I'm going to give this first, regardless of what I have. Tell me anybody that can tell me when they have done that they have not been provided for, and that God has not only provided for them, but is more abundantly given to them more than they had before. I'm telling you, 100% true.
We didn't have, well, I've never been wealthy in my whole life and been without a lot. And then, so when David and I started saving and got our savings account, started building up a lot, I was like, it wasn't on me then, but later it became apparent to me that I was dependent on that more than I was God.
Sure, yeah.
And what all happened? I don't know. There was like a billion things in the world kept happening. We had to dig into savings to pay to fix this, dig into savings to pay to fix this. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to worry about that anymore.
Yep.
I'm going to, focus and know that you're going to provide whatever happens. And
I'm going to give to you. And I know that, and that's a thing, man. I mean, that is a thing, that I don't have the resources, but God, I'm giving them to you. Yes, Scott.
Malachi 3:10.
Yep.
Says, bring all tithes in the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. And try me in this. God himself says, try me.
And that's the only place that it says, try me on this. Test me on this, man. See if this is going to work.
Also says, if I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing, such a blessing that you will not have room enough to receive it.
Right.
And catch it. It falls around you to the people in your life around you.
That's right. Yeah. It's awesome. So you have out of there. So they pass up and another point in this, and then we'll move forward on this. Just our resources. But when God took what this little boy offered, and he said, this is what we're going to use. And the disciples again are like, that isn't enough to do anything. He said, you put that in my hands and I'll tell you what I can do with it. You'll see what I can do with it. Right. And so they went out, and it says that as they had sat down, that's 5,000 men, which is men. Now, do you think they had kids with them? Do you think they had their wives with them? Yeah. So you're talking, you don't know, 7,000 to 10,000 people probably, is what they're saying, that you were fed with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Okay, and it says that they distributed them, and it says that when they had eaten until they were full, right, as much as they wanted. They didn't hold back on that, man. These people were, man, I've been walking all day. You know how much I'm gonna eat in that thing, man? I'm gonna see it, but I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna eat it, I'm gonna, right? They ate till they were full, and when they got done, there were 12 basketfuls left of everything that was there. And they said, I mean, just think about your life and the way that the Lord is working in your life. As I am closing my hand, right? As I close my hand, can God fill it? You can't fill a closed hand. As I open my hands and say, God, I'm opening this to you and I'm giving this to you. Can you fill that? He will fill that. And as I give it out, he will fill it up again. And I give it out and he'll fill it up again. And we can change the world, man. I'm telling you, we can change the culture. We can change everything that goes on if we would just step up and have trust and belief that God's going to take care of it. Okay. So we're gonna move on. Yes.
I wonder how many people, as that basket came, had to buy them, and then they came and started collecting the extras. How many people took out of their own lunchbox that they had contributed initially and put into
Sure.
the
Right.
community basket?
That's right. I'm telling you, change hearts, man. When you see somebody starting to step up, what does that cause you to do? That causes me to want to step up and want to do and want to contribute to what's going on. Why do you think our church is doing what it's doing? Why is our church doing what it's doing? Because people see what's going on. It's not about the pastor. It's not about people. It's about the kingdom. People see it and want to be part of that culture. They want to come and be part of that. They want to change lives for Christ. And that's what we're doing, right? So moving forward out of this one, let's go to, and we really can't get into this too much, but we're going to go over and now we're going to talk about our power. Okay, our power. Let's go to 1 Samuel. This is another story that we've all heard multiple times. 1 Samuel, and we're going to go to 17. Okay, and I'm going to give you a little backdrop on this. 1 Samuel 17. This is talking about David and Goliath, right? Our power. Okay, this is a great story. This is not just a kid's story. I mean, this really is a great story. The backdrop on this, right? First off, and then we'll really probably talk about it a little bit more next week, right? So I don't get rebuked by my wife over there. As you look at David and Goliath, right?
Yeah.
What do we know about David? In this, as we're in this phase of life, what do we know about David? Sit down, man.
He's small.
He's small. He's ruddy. Is he a warrior?
No.
Not a warrior, right? What else do we know about David? What phase is this? What has just happened to him before this? Huh? Not yet.
But he was a
He was
shepherd.
chosen.
He was a shepherd.
Picked out like bears and lions and stuff like, so he knew that he could tend his flock.
There you go. He was a shepherd boy that took care of his flock. He was already chosen. He was already chosen to be king, right? Chosen to be king. Now, he is of all the kids. He's this little red-headed, ruddy, little dippy thing. Good looking man, shepherd boy. Right? This is what he is, right? Huh? He was the youngest. He was the one that was passed over, right? When they said, Jesse, bring out your kids, man, and we're gonna pick a king out of these kids, and he brought all 7 of his kids. They rolled out. He said, no. Is this all you got? Isn't there somebody else? And he's like, well, I got this little ruddy little weasel of a kid over here. Well, bring him out here, man. Let's see. Right? Isn't that what he said? I mean, he said he wasn't even significant enough to bring him out to show us, because he didn't even think that he had the ability, the look, the whatever to be king. So he said, don't even bring him out. And he said, no, man, bring him out here. So he chose him, right? Who was chosen before this? And then we'll get into this story next week. Saul was chosen. Why was Saul chosen to be king before this? He was a warrior. He was big. He was rugged. He was good looking. He had, right? He was all that stuff, right? In a box of matches or whatever you say about that. He was all that stuff, right? And they said bring this king out here, and he had done all kinds of against God. And they're saying, look, I'm choosing David because he's a man after my own heart. God is not looking at our physical ability. Not everybody's like Shane, man, a big old, you're not like that. But man, God is not looking at what we can offer of ourselves, right? He's looking at our heart and what he sees in us and again, I get off on tangents, but why does the devil fight us so hard? And Sharon said this a couple weeks ago. Why does the devil fight us so hard? Because he sees what we don't see inside of us. He sees the Holy Spirit. He sees God in us. He sees God's power in us. So he is fighting us like he is fighting God. And I'm the one on the outside saying, man, you give me a break, man. I can't take this. I can't do this. I'm not powerful enough. He's like, look, I'm not fighting you. I'm fighting what's inside of you. Right? God is, even the enemy sees what's in us. And we don't see ourselves what God can do with us. We don't believe the power that he has in us. To step up and man, I'm gonna do this, Mug. I'm gonna get this done. Whatever it is that you're calling me to do, I'm gonna do it. So that's the backdrop on this. Okay, so David is tending the sheep. His brothers, they go over here and they're in war, right? They're in war with the Philistines, right? They're over there and his dad says, hey, David, you ruddy little thing, right? I need you to bring over here this cheese and this bread and this stuff, and I need you to deliver it to your warrior brothers. I need you to bring it to the battlefield. And I need you to bring it over and give them substance, keep them going, man. They're fighting hard over there. They're doing this, and David is just faithful. Does what he's told to do, follows what he's told to do. I mean, that's what he does. And he says, okay, I'll do it. Right. So that's the backdrop. So it gets over here. And I don't know what, I don't know if I should keep going or not, but so as he gets over there, what do you think, Sharon? Stop? I better stop. Okay, here we go, man. So, because if I don't, I'm going to get into this thing. We got 3 minutes left and then I'm in trouble, man. I'm just telling you that. So I want you to think about our power. Okay. As we go into this week, we looked at our faith, right? How much faith do we need to do what God called us to do? Faith is a mustard seed. You need very little faith. You just need to put it in God's hands. Our resources, a stolen mustard seed. Call out in the front row. Our resources, right? What does God have that we have for resources that we think we can't do anything with? And God's saying, look, you take that little bit that you have, you give that to me, you stand up for me, and I'm going to take that little bit that you have, and I'm going to abundantly supply everything that needs to be done. We have so many needs.
And Chad, for resources, they may just see a broken heart.
That's
come to me with a broken heart, empty hands, empty nothing.
right. And you do with me what you want to do, because I'm telling you, we all have different things, right? I don't know what capability God has given me as a resource versus what he's given you guys. But we all have enough resources that we are all the hands and feet of Christ. We believe that the thing that I can't provide, maybe Philip can provide. The things that who knows who can provide what I can't provide, but I'm telling you, all of us together, we can provide everything that is needed through Christ who gives us strength. Right? I want you to think about that. I'm telling you that.
Make sure it's not. I mentioned finances for us, but you said brokenhearted. Someone in here has been depressed and brokenhearted before and has come through it through God's help. And right now it's a very tough time. So many people commit suicide during Christmas. And I bring this up because a friend of mine did just commit suicide yesterday morning, at 12:30 in the morning. And I don't know why she did it. And she reached out to her best friend who called me and told me about it, but she did. And she'd been depressed before. So the point is, you may have been through that yourself, and your gift is to keep your eyes open for someone else who's hurting and to reach out to that person, so that just like we're helping kids and stuff during Christmas with gifts, there's someone who needs your help to live through.
And I'm telling you, and I've said this before, that as we look at the congregation and the church and our class, and we may all look good and we may all have a smile on our face, but I'm telling you, if we will take the time to really go up to somebody and say, really, how are you doing today? Pick somebody out and say, no, really, are you doing okay? That somebody that may seem like they're not like they need to be. And you just take the time to step out and say, I'm really checking on you, man. Right? I'm telling you, that goes a long ways to do what we need to do.
I think it's important too, just real quick, is everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Everybody has a story. But we don't know everybody's story.
Mhm.
And so it's important sometimes to hear your story so that other people know, like, if, you know, if you know someone is depressed and you've done that, or you know, someone like, I'm just gonna throw this out, there's, as an example, we had a son that died. Not everybody knows that.
Right,
But if someone knows someone who's going through that, I am more than willing to
right,
step up and talk to that mom
Nice.
who's just lost a child.
right.
Because I've been there and I've experienced it. So it's important that we learn
Yes.
about each other's stories so that that's the resource. Because
Yeah.
we
That's-
don't know,
That's awesome.
I think that, and we have to be willing to share that story.
Right.
Not as a, oh, pity me.
No.
It's, I'm here, I'm available, I've been there, I can help.
And that's why none of us need to sit up here like I am better than anybody else. I would never go through that. I would never do that. I would never. You are so full of crap that I've ever seen, man. That you think you're up here and we're all down here. No, man, we're all in this together. Right? We are all in this together. We all have things that we need to say. Look, man, if I can help in this way, then use me. Right? Anger management, man. I can maybe help you through it. Maybe not. All right, we gotta quit, man. Get off on, and next week we're going into this, we're gonna talk about Goliath, okay? And we're gonna talk about David. We're gonna talk about the power that we have and what we can do with that, okay? That's a great story.
So I drive up the mountain every day for work, so I get to see a lot of beautiful sunrises and a fog over the valley and all this stuff. Of course, it's beautiful.
Right.
And I was reminded this week by the Holy Spirit that when we see things like that, you need in nature, you need in the world, and you get that feeling of like, oh my goodness, so beautiful. I was reminded this week, we are God's workmanship, just like that sunrise. We are His workmanship. And that is the way that He listens to us, whether we think we're enough or not.
That's right.
God says you are.
Right, that's right. And it is about what he tells us. Okay, we gotta quit. Okay. Oh, there goes David. Go ahead, David.
So we talked a lot about the tithe test, right? A bunch of people talk about tithing.
Hi,
You have not taken the tithe test, which is, God, I'm gonna give 10%, and it's gonna hurt. And if God, right, so Carrie and I did that early in our marriage, and we said, God, if you don't give us back at least double what we give, right? So we said, if you do, we will tithe forever. And it's amazing how God just does it over and over and over. And it's not always additional money that comes in, but sometimes exactly what Mike said is,
oh gosh, yeah.
then it's stuff that you don't have to pay, and you get credits for this,
Oh, yeah.
credits for that.
God's economy is not our economy. I'm telling you, God's economy is the least of you will be made the greatest, right? Giving you, I mean, we could go on, but we can't.
Blessed is not that he provided for me, blessed is that he gave.
That he allowed me to do it. Right. You see why I cut out 10 minutes early. All right, that's it. We're gonna pray and we're gonna be done, man. Come back next week. We're gonna reconvene right here. Father, we do thank you for this time, Lord. I'm so thankful for our class that just giving input and giving insight, and Lord, that you would just continue to speak to us, Lord. And I pray this week that you would help us to